gonna what you call that rib. I know y'all eating that rib like what those is Cheryl. Y'all put the ribs down now. Come on, don't get the sticky sauce all on your phone trying to see what me and Cheryl is doing here on Memorial Day as we pay much respect to all of our fallen heroes and soldiers, and not only soldiers out in the battleground, but also soldiers in our family, like my Aunt Mary. Oh, I'm just gonna miss her so much. So I hope you are. What you say? I'm sorry.
She rose and
She
heroes.
Rose. That's right. She Rose and Hero. It takes Cheryl to get me together. I keep telling y'all she unapologetically brilliant. So we very excited to be with y'all today because we've got some good content, But as we wait for a couple of people to roll through the chat, y'all know me always got to be messy boots, okay? So I'm going to start this off a little bit about some color trends. Sure, you're going to love this one. So every time we do these podcasts, I like to start off with some current events, but the current events that have not been good at all. So I just, it's just these gun law. Oh man, I don't. Anything you got to say about these gun laws?
Well, I did pose one thing, because one thing is clear. We do know what cops do when they're actually feared for their life. They don't go in. They don't go for their gun. They freeze. They disengage. They say, "Hell no, we ain't going in." So it's kind of weird that when they do shoot, let's just say for Black people, if you're shooting and chasing, you don't fear for your life. You're not fearing for your life, because we see in Texas what they do when they fear for their life. They don't go
Wow.
in. And so,
Yeah.
it's kind of, for once, Black people have seen what cops actually do when they do fear for their life. They
Yeah.
don't go they don't go after the gunman.
Hmm. That's very interesting because I have a customer. He's a police officer, and he said, to your point, admittingly, that cops they become fearful. Not that I'm not going to say I ever thought a cop, a police officer. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful. Uh, is superhuman. But my initial thought was like, well, they have no problem killing us because that's always their response, that we killed the person, the African American, because we were afraid. And so I did think this time, like, I wonder why was this fear different from the other fears? But it takes you to just make you go, hmm. So we don't think police officers are
And it's
superhuman.
normal behavior. We're not
Yes.
saying that it's not normal behavior to hear ta 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 ta, and then for you to say, let's let them run out of ammunition before we go in. And you're all, that's normal.
Yeah, I wouldn't be running towards them.
But,
But that's why I'm a
but we
hairstylist. I'm not a police officer. I
yeah,
am.
yeah.
No, sir.
But we do know. Yeah, well, but we do know when they actually fear for their lives, what they have a natural human inclination to do. And that is not chase. That is not go after. That is not engage. That is not confront. That is not containing. So they have a whole other behavior pattern when they actually do fear. And so,
Mm-mm.
what could they be fearing when they are talking about, well, I thought he had a gun, or there's 10 of us and one of them? Well, there's one a guy with a gun in Texas, and there was 50 of y'all. So, what is the dichotomy of the behavior? What is going on? There must be a different level of something that we're not talking about that they actually do psychologically fear. There is
Yeah.
something else going on behind that trigger. And I think that is the new conversation, but we won't talk about it. We just kind of say,
Yeah.
okay, you feared, but no,
Well,
it's a
well, we heard the one, the guy on MSNBC. He did a really good job at depicting how they attempted to first. I think it was the governor that these were, gallant fighters with the cowboy hats on and all
Mm-hmm.
this stuff. And they went in, then they retracted that story, not the governor, but the police chief. He retracted the story that did happen. Now, I will say, as a reader of history, that that's the first time I've ever heard another white person, like, point by point and step by step, break down that there was an attempt to really paint a different picture about these police officers, that had we not had any cameras, this would probably went down in history as a whole nother story.
Mm-hmm.
But
Absolutely.
yeah, but I think that at the end of the day, I don't know who I heard say it, but children, they never stood a chance. And even though it's easy for us to sit here and say they should have ran in, but I'm
Well,
a mother.
here's the thing. You create Hollywood. You created the John Wayne. You created the cowboy. You created this superhero. You created the Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of, the Rambo. You created this thing in which, of course, white males are psychologically connected to for some odd reason. It's bizarre. But here's the thing. You didn't do that.
Right.
And our country's most prized possession is our children. And that is a breakdown because, of course, children are children are children are children, regardless of what race. But here we go again. Those that psychological identification as a hero and Rambo, and it's just not
Yeah.
true.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
it seems to be true when it comes to brown and black people. There is something else going on in the white male psyche behind a gun. And we don't want to talk about it, but I do think that it's a fear, but it's not an existential threat. And those are two different things. And so, anthropologically or psychologically, there could be a fear, but it is not the same that you're in dire straits and your life is at stake, because we do know what they do when that actually is a fact. They don't engage, they run, they freeze, but they don't
Yeah.
do that. And so, the existential threat and the danger is not reality based when it comes to black people. And if we could circle our conversation around, then what do you perceive? What are you perceiving that this black person's in front of you? And I think that is the conversation.
Hmm. Well, that will be a very impactful one. What's up, Juju? I see you in the chat, and yes, I have your goodies coming on out to you. So, thank you guys so much. We had to start the conversation off with something that's very powerful, as we're talking about, how things get mixed up in deliberate translation, and how one group of people will, conclude and think, one thing, and you have another group who's on the other end, of those thoughts. Though we're talking about something that's life threatening, the topic today is not. However, when it comes to coloring hair, a lot of people really think that is, life threatening, particularly when it comes to, your roots showing up or your hair falling out. So what I wanted to do, yeah, Cheryl, they said that those were some great points. Yeah, Cheryl is thebomb.com, and we thank you guys so much for participating with us on these podcasts, these lives. Me, myself, y'all know me. I just be ready to say some stuff. I'm I'm not as refined as Cheryl. Y'all know I want to say something real ratchet. But anywho, I'm not going to go there today because, after all, today is Memorial Day. So I'm going to be just a little bit ghetto. Okay, Juju? Just a little bit. So I'm going to start this off. We're going to be talking about hair color. We're going to debunk some myths. We're going to make sure that you guys walk away with some absolute truths. After all, the name of this podcast is some of the dumbest shit, and we do mean dumb shit, that people say about black hair. Cheryl and I, we can't take it No more, because the only people who are really suffering, as far as we're concerned, is you. You know, if you are a woman or a man or a child of color, you're spending way too much money, probably way too much time, in efforting trying to take care of your hair. And our goal is merely to debunk this stuff, and then of course to let you guys know that we have this wonderful documentary that's coming out in the fall, and it's called The Narrative. And the narrative is going to be about letting the truth be told on the evolution of Afro hair care here in America, and maybe a little bit across the United States, around the world, if we can get some of that in there, because I'm still filming. So stay tuned, stay posted, because we've got some more. We've got giveaways as usual here on the platform. You'll be first in the chat, so you'll be the first one to get a t-shirt mailed with your goodies. So whoever comes up in the chat first, you get a free t-shirt. And maybe we're going to get some of these mugs that we got. Cheryl, did you get your mug?
I sure did.
Okay, good. So Cheryl has a mug too, but she ain't giving hers away. She's got water in hers. Y'all know I got some Drake in mine. It's Memorial Day. We got a Drake. Come on now. This ain't Thunderbird the Kool-Aid though, Juju. I promise you, it's not Thunderbird the Kool-Aid. Okay. All right. So what I saw today was here are some trends for hair coloring, just to get this conversation going. They say blondes is supposed to be whiter, more pale yellow this year. They say tone on tone. I love the way the beauty industry always just comes up with this fancy stuff. You know, tone on tone really means single process, but something about tone on tone, we're going to charge you a little bit more money if we say tone on tone. And the color for the summer is going to be copper hair. Clearly, I'm ahead of the trend. So copper hair is supposed to be the color. And what's going to be dynamic and new in hair color? Are you ready for this, Cheryl? And this is I snatched this from the headlines of Glamour magazine. And Cheryl, you are going to love this. The color of the summer is called the expensive brunette. Cheryl, you talking about me? Hey, go check it out for yourself. This is the color of the summer, according to Glamour magazine 2022. It is the expensive brunette. So Cheryl, you are and we are most certainly ahead of the curve, because Cheryl has the most beautiful head of brunette color that you ever want to see in real life. So this is going to be quite interesting this summer. So before we get into the topic about hair color, let me just say this. Now, we are making light of this in our podcast, the dumbest shit that people say about hair, but we want to make sure that we say this before we get started. We do understand that people do have allergies to hair color and they're not to use it. So we want to just be very responsible with our leadership to say we are not encouraging anybody who have issues with allergies around hair coloring to be goofy and do dumb shit like use it anyway, okay? So if you are allergic to hair color, please don't use it. Don't try it. Don't try to find out if you are still allergic to it, okay? So we're not going to say that. We're not going to recommend that. So that's our disclaimer right up front, is that if you are allergic to hair color, please don't try this at home. So we're going to get started with the number one. We're just gonna jump right on into it. Number one, is hair color. You know, we talk about natural hair because people want to stay natural. They don't want no chemicals. They want some all natural coconut, shea butter, black Jamaican castor oil. They want some, some soap, pulled out from the earth, the soap root. They just want everything natural. So is hair color bad? Will it mess up your beautiful natural locks and fro and curls and coils? And take it away.
Well, I have had this conversation so many times. I think we left off the last time we were talking about where is your natural status? Where is it? Is it in the pigment? Is it in the coil? Where is the naturalness of black hair, black people's hair? So the key here is that I'd see people with locks who love to bleach. I've seen people with locks and froze and twist outs and whatever the case may be. They have a little, bleach on the tips, or they'll have color on the tips, or they'll have certain things on the tip. But for some reason, we think if we take the pigment out, change it to a different color for some reason, which is a very harsh chemical.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But for some reason, if the hair strand is still coiled, but it's colored, somehow we fix that in our mind and we think we're still natural.
Mm.
So the key is, let's just say if I was a black person, and we all know that we've talked about Mr. Jackson bleaching his skin.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know why bleaching skin would be denying your Afro heritage. But if you bleach your hair, you're still embracing your African culture. And I know we have a lot of dichotomy there. And I know that, you know, we want to look good. We want to deal with cosmetic enhancements and alterations, but we can't get that natural thing together because to me, anyone, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Ladosha,
Okay.
okay? We do know that either two things are going to happen when you take the pigment or you enhance the pigment. In bleach, let's just say you have to take the black out or the dark brown out, and then you deposit something else, right?
Right.
But do you realize that the hair strand either becomes looser or softer?
Mm-hmm.
And
I
then,
can attest to that.
okay, so you know why is relaxer bad, but then color isn't? Because at the end of the day, eventually the hair will lose its integrity. So we have to decide where the naturalness is. Is it
Mm-hmm.
in the color, or in the melanin, or is it in the coil? Which makes it still natural? That's
Mm.
the question. And
That's the
so,
question.
right. And we have been very double standard with people who straighten, which means that they like a more elongated coil, but then we don't say the same thing with people who choose to bleach, color, replace color, enhance color, add color, take out color. And why do they get to still be natural? And the people who take the coil out, they're not natural.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to I love to tell this story how I went to a all natural hair show with
Uh-huh.
my hair stretched out, and
Oh,
well, it was denied access, y'all, practically. Well, they wanted to throw me out, to be honest. They no, I'm not joking. Right here in Cleveland, Ohio, there was a big hoopla that I could not be in the natural hair show because my hair not only was it straightened out, but it was colored. And so I was most definitely, they was like, no, she cannot be here,
no.
and I was like, oh, okay. I did not get the memo. So if you've had that experience where you're quote unquote not black enough or natural enough because your hair texture doesn't fit what whoever those people were at that time, say it is, just drop the hashtag me too. So put that hashtag me too if you can relate. Um,
I always
maybe
wear my hair straight
yeah,
when I
yeah,
go at
maybe nobody ever said it to you, but maybe you had some nonverbal communication. You got that stare, like you, and I get that stare all the time. Whenever I'm doing a consultation, I've even had people say to me, they'll look, and I'll ask, is everything okay? And then they'll say like, well, I'm just wondering why you're doing this consultation and you have on a wig. And I'm like, I don't have on a wig. This is my hair. They'll go like, Really? Or you have a relaxer, or something like that. So I do get asked that a lot. So if you can relate to that, go ahead on and drop that hashtag me too, because Cheryl, do you get that sometimes? Have you ever
All
had
the time. I never wear kinky, curly, coil, my birth texture when I do a lecture. I
that? And
always
then
wear straight hair.
and do people
And
do
that
they
is,
jump? Do they
and
get
that's to
on
make
you
a
like,
point. And that's to make a point because I'm getting ready to teach them real, true Afro natural placement within the hair strand. Because I'm
oh,
getting ready to get them to understand genetically, they are not talking about genetics. They're talking about racism. See, that's a
oh,
political portion of cosmetology. And because one of the things that you have to understand, if we talking about, is naturalness connected to Afroness that is connected to chemical free, or are we talking about cosmetic alterations that are not Afrocentric? Because when you go into the continent of Africa, all of that changes. See, none of that's prevalent. None of that
mm,
matters because Afrocentricity does mean to alter. That God's gave you a dominant hair strand that can be interchangeable to whatever it is that you want. You have so much more spectrum and scale. But when you have straight hair, you're on the other scale, but you can't go to curly. So my point is that if you have been given the gift of curliness, you have more spectrum of choices, but you can't exercise the choice because they're too busy being inside of a racist paradigm on trying to identify your heritage. That has nothing to do with a hair strand in the continent of Africa. You can straighten it, dude, and you still are African. But
hmm.
in the Western paradigm, you have so much political conversation that we're not talking about the same thing. Chemical free is not being natural in terms of what they mean as it's connected to being Afro identified.
Hmm.
I can still be Afro identified with straight hair, but within the natural movement, they're trying to be anti relaxer, anti chemical but it's not pro natural because pro natural is genetic and you can't get rid of your natural status even if you try, because I can't
Right.
change my hair from keratin to some other wire or fabric. There's no way I can do that. So but my choice.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Now you're stepping on people's toes here when you're talking about that this conversation of the natural hair movement being racist, because I'm just playing devil's advocate because I know some people in the chat is like, hold on, not sure, not because they're going to say, well, how I'm going to be pro-black and like my hair. I'm just trying to tell people not to do that. So how am I in a racist,
Well, of
paradigm or
course you are.
dichotomy? So, oh, really? So
Well, of
I
course
know
you
we're
are.
talking about, we're going to get to the color, y'all, but how is that? How could that be if I'm black and I'm trying to tell Ladosha she ain't black because look at her hair. Look at, she got that blonde. She wasn't born like that. Her hair didn't come like that. So Cheryl,
Well,
how am I?
let me ask you a question. We've seen many pictures of African cultures, which is out of 54 countries. And then on the tribal level, there's another 100. So there's about a lot of thousands of different tribes who do
Right.
different things. Okay, so if I decide to put in an ear gauge and then my earlobe is now this long, this big, are you saying that I am not African because my earlobes are now, I've stretched them and now they're hanging down to here, but they're supposed to be right here. And then that's to say that no one is born when they put ochre dye in their hair and they're walking around with red hair in an African
Mm.
culture. They weren't born like that. But that's not the point. The point is that we cannot talk about Afro-ness and Afro hair without talking about its opposite all the time. Well, I can't talk about natural hair. Is the natural hair care movement is not a movement in and of itself. It is an answer to being anti-chemical. But when you
Okay.
say anti-chemical as the prevailing foundation of your movement, then you're only moving to not be something and to not move because you are something. And
Okay.
the 1960s Afro movement, they just wore their hair with an Afro comb, picked it out, patted it, and walked out the door. Went to the
Right.
barber, got a nice cut, whatever the case may be. And you can even bleach that. The point is that the natural hair care conversation of the Y2K is a whole nother movement that is moving away, and the pillar of that movement is anti-chemical. That's why you got
Mm.
nuts and berries. Now you want to do vodka, and then you want to do salad dressing, then you want to do cocktails, then you're shaking it up, and
Mayonnaise.
then you mayonnaise, and then carrot, and then olive oil, and then it's in the refrigerator. And that's a whole new movement that has nothing to do with anything birth, texture, genetic, nothing. And I know that it's a very hard conversation to have, but that is the fact. And so their parents, the millennial generation of the natural movement, their parents didn't go through all of that. Their
Mm.
parents wore afros, then they wore the curl. They were understanding, they were exercising their cosmetic, Afrocentric, dominant prototype that could be anything. And then until you get into the racist paradigm when you're dealing with chemical free living, that's not the same movement. So
Woo. Woo, you dropping the bomb. You dropping that. They in the chat like, damn, like there's some excellent points. You're right, guys. These are some excellent points, and this is why we have this podcast. And again, it is called the dumbest shit that people say about black hair. Because as you guys can see, now we have to say this too. A lot of this is coming out of ignorance because we're not. Like, I'll be honest. I did not hear that explanation within a cosmetology setting. I actually heard it in a lecture, outside of the industry. So even within the cosmetology and barbering industry, we don't even hear these kinds of conversations. So a lot of people, particularly we're only at this point, I'm talking to your licensed professionals. People who are not licensed, of course, you're going to say whatever you want to say, but we do find in the beauty industry that oftentimes they will repeat, and what's out in the streets can creep into the salons, and then it becomes a part of, believe it or not, guys, our professional rhetoric. And I have heard that event that I went to, though it was for the public, it was hosted, and all of the classes were taught by licensed professionals, and I was the odd man out, and they wanted me out of that event, and those women meant business. And so like Cheryl said, this is not a very easy conversation or even topic that we can, unpack here within this live. But we appreciate you guys for, sticking in with us and just, having the stomach to listen to what she's saying, because we know that this is definitely going to disturb, some comfortable places. And then for a lot of other people, it might validate you to say, I've been trying to say that, I just couldn't say it like that. So replay this, and then you can, add this. And this is what we call, our hashtag is to help change the narrative. And this is how we begin to do that, because again, our primary goal is to stop the unnecessary spending, the bad language, the hatred and all this of your hair. So we're hoping that some of this dumb shit just stop being said. Okay. So back to the topic of color. So let's go through some of the biggest concerns that people have about hair color, and maybe what you think could be done to help alleviate it. So now this is for the natural hair people. And so, and now this doesn't matter what color you are, because everybody's got this stuff on their head, but primarily people with Afro hair. Here is what we hear a lot about hair color. And number one is that it just dries your hair out. So what do you have to say about people? And these are some of the, now this, we're not promoting and we're not putting down, but this is one of those colors that people will bring in and say two things. One, this dried my hair out, and two, it did not cover my gray. So let's get two tackled at one. So color drying hair out, and why this color did not cover the gray, even though it says it covers gray.
Now, I have to say, my clients, when I was doing hair, I don't do it much now. I have to say that my gauge, okay, in dealing with how well something will color something white. And I always will say, you cannot, in theory, any collaboration, sophistication, it doesn't make a difference. You cannot take color that has many other colors. The color with dark colors, in my opinion, and fifth graders know this, third graders know this, that when you start with a white piece of paper, what you're gonna do is pick up the most available color in black. And it's not going to be the whole entire spectrum of what makes a color dark. You're not going to get that cast. You're going to get the weakest cast in the black, which is probably red, sometimes violet, and sometimes green. So, with that being said, the key here is the level of salt and pepper. The more pepper in the hair, that hair will then create an optical illusion, and then the little hairs that will be turning salt will take on a hue, and then the black in the salt and pepper. So if you're 89% salt and pepper, you have more black than you do white strands, 50-50. And then once the white becomes in the majority, you're going to start getting a weird cast.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's when you're using this stuff right here. So what she's saying, guys, is this type of coloring. Now there are different types of color, and we're gonna talk about a few. We can't get them all in, but we'll try to get some in. So don't go beating up on Miss Clara. A lot of times people will do that unfairly, and I don't think it's. I always say, you know what? There are no bad products. It's just a matter of finding the one that's right for your hair. But I keep some stuff just for this type of a conversation, because this is like a full bottle, well, half of a bottle, where people will bring it in, because I'll ask them to bring in what they're using on their hair. And they always say it dried my hair out. It did not cover my gray. And they're very angry at Clara. So to your point,
right. And let me just say this, their hair is already dry before it even gets to be colored, because if the gray becomes more of a majority, the scalp has already become a slightly dehydrated. That's what makes gray hair gray. It is a dehydrated hair strain. I will say this, it is not the pigment, people. So when we say color, we're talking about the hydrogen peroxide mixed up. The bottle gets hot. That's color. But you guys have to remember, before you mix that color and shake it up, the pigment is not the chemical. It is the combination of the catalyst and the pigment. The pigment is the dark, and then you guys have to cut the bottle open, then pour in and then shake it up. Now, it is what makes the product hot and start to become warm in the bottle. That is what we call a raised alkaline pH. It is the pH that makes your hair dry, not the dye itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. If that makes sense, that makes a lot of sense. And the numbers are coming up, and they're like, oh, okay. So we want you guys to understand that sometimes what you're doing is you're using the wrong kind of color. So this right here, what we would call this a semi color, and you guys call it a rinse. And so what she's saying to you guys is the terminology rinse. What can you speak to using this as
Well,
a
let's just
rinse?
put rinse. Let's just make sure that we always understand when we talk about semi, we're all talking about stains. We're talking about the same dye and the same principles in your lipstick, in your mascara, in your whatever, in any dye. The pigment is the color of what you're going to get. Once you start mixing it with the activator, it is the activator and the pH which creates a drying, dehydrated, kind of hard, crunchy feel. But you got to understand your hair is already starting to become very crunchy and dehydrated and resistant. The gray hair just in the placement of the scalp. Usually, most people will say my hair is drier here, okay, than it is
Mm-hmm.
here in the nape. It
Mm-hmm.
is crunchier at the hairline.
Yeah.
So, where there's less fat in the scalp, you're going to be extremely drier and
Okay.
more brittle, and that's a scalp fat issue, not a. So you have a combination. Your hair is already getting dehydrated by the time you're getting gray.
All right. So
So
so this is not and my hair is I would say 98% white. I still do have some black in my hair, so I can attest personally to and professionally to
mhm,
what she is saying is true. So basically, for those of us like me who have white hair, if you're using these types of stainers, your expectations are way too high for what the product is actually formulated to do. And no amount of fancy words, no amount, well, I don't want chemicals on my hair. So I think if I try to color my hair black with this one, some people are doing it because they feel like, you know what, it's safer because there's a belief that this type of color is safer than the colors that you have to develop. So can you speak to that? Because
well, let me
people are very,
let
very
me and let's go here. We all have cooked spaghetti, right? Do not eat
yes.
do not eat spaghetti on a white plate. You are not going to get that stain out. So there is chemicals in tomatoes that makes them pigments. Anything red makes them pigments. So we're only talking about the ability to travel and stain, how much it goes in how the level of absorption in terms of the cuticle layer, in terms of its staining, and you can't get it out once it gets in. And you don't necessarily need hydrogen peroxide for that to happen. So obviously, spaghetti, we don't, tomato sauce is very hard to get out. I don't care what you get it on. So there is a capsaicin, there is a chemical in these types of natural foods that are just become stains. But what I will say is, I think the color era, if you can help me with this, Ladosha, has
Mm-hmm.
gotten a little convoluted because our fear of color has not come from the color itself. It has come from double processes in terms of relaxer. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so backing out of saying that, of course, it depends on will we want straight hair more or we want colored hair more. But sometimes we want both. And so we decided to vilify the relaxer and not the color. But the color was just as vicious in terms of the cost, being caustic in terms
Yeah.
of a hair strand. But I don't color mine only because I'm a dishwater. What does they call it? Expensive brunette.
Yeah, yes, you're an expensive brunette. You're not a dishwater blonde anymore, sweetheart. This is the color you better get. Yes, baby, y'all
So
gonna have to pay for that color. It's called expensive brunette.
I will say that rinses are stains. Remember the in the era of lip stain? Remember lip
Yes.
stains? Okay.
Yeah.
That's the same thing that you got in the bottle there. It is just at a very low dosage so you can put it on your lips. But when you are staining hair, um, unfortunately, I didn't know that this was going to turn into a chemical conversation. And you can't talk about color unless you're talking about chemistry. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I would like to go into that. But what was, give me the light answer, uh,
Uh,
the light question,
so
and
the light question. So now,
very
now
superficial light question.
right. So here's another superficial light question that's coming up. So then another question that, so we now understand why you're not getting the great coverage because, like she said, you gotta make sure you're using the right kind. These are stainers. You will definitely have to use a color with some type of a developer if you want to get great coverage. And then also, she wants you to understand that 9 times out of 10, the hair is already dry, considering the composition of fat that's on the scalp. So again, we're going to ask you guys to lower your expectations. All right. So here is another one that comes up a lot when it comes to coloring hair is that the reason why I don't color my hair or I think it's bad for natural hair is because when I colored my afro, it didn't last long anyway. So why does color not last long? People want to know that one.
Or are we depositing more into the black, or are we taking the black and replacing it?
All right. So that's something that you guys have to
Because
consider.
Afro people, you can't be natural if you take the black out of the afro.
All
That's a
right.
bit that's a bit extreme. You can't have it both ways because even if you take the black out, that hair strand is going to be a little relaxed.
They said you just need to just be their beautician. She doesn't do hair anymore, guys, and I can only take for so many people. Thank you so much, Lady J. And again, this is why we're having this conversation because we need you guys to understand the narrative. We've never. I'm going to be honest. This is the first time in my career and working with another fellow licensed professional that we get this candid. When we go to color classes, they don't even want to bring up race. When we go to color classes, you want to know what they tell us? We all have the same hair. And all we do is sit in the class and go like this. Who's going to have the heart to say, that's a lie? I've never had the heart to say it.
Well,
But this is
and I
what
mean,
they, go ahead.
no, that's very interesting. I don't even know if white people even have examined that. I think they think that you're saying genetically we're all human, so it's all keratin.
Right.
Well, that's true, but when it gets to coloring and processing time and all those little, nah, not the same.
Yeah. I would have to agree, and I would say this: it was Olive Benson who, like, really, she basically jumped me in, like, you're going to be a colorist. And so when I got into that space of becoming a colorist, oftentimes, to be honest, I was the only Black person. Which it was very, 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 very intimidating. And I did not have the heart to really like kind of refute what they were saying. And also, they kept making it clear to me that even though that they were white, that they knew more about Black hair than me. And so, yeah, I was really afraid to just even come back with an answer to that. And I'm not saying to say that I don't think they were trying to be condescending, but like to your point, they had never really fully examined Afro hair, and they were truly speaking, making that statement from a genetic, backdrop. But guys, there is something
Not
uniquely
even
different.
that. Not
Go
not not,
ahead.
not, not even that.
Uh
They, they
oh.
they were, that was arrogance.
Oh.
That was just pure
See how
arrogance.
I was trying to take up for him. I was trying to take up for him, but go ahead.
No, it's just arrogance because at the end of the day, once you make the recessive prototype or the recessive phenotype the standard, They don't do that in any other discipline on earth. Where do you make a recessive prototype the standard when you know that you don't do that? The dominant prototype is the standard, and everything else is an exception, but the dominant is the rule. So just the fact that they don't even understand that, well, they understand black skin. They'll give you the complexion, but they're
Yeah.
not giving you the hair. They are not
No.
giving you the coil. They making the coil the last. They making the coil the first. So just the whole statement of that. And let me just be truthful. The only thing in white cosmetology or straight hair cosmetology, that the only thing you can do is cut and color. You can't do anything else.
I love you, Cheryl.
I mean, well, what else are they gonna do? Every time you go to the hair show, they showing you some different cut that they did 10 years ago and doing the same color, and now they're gonna color on the tips. And my whole thing is that, hey, until black hair care gets their act together, we just gonna be sitting there on the sidelines, and they're gonna be. And let me just say this: the greatest colorists, in my opinion, I have been African American, but they swear. But we can't refute them, and I do agree with you, Ladosha. When you don't know that you don't know, you can't set the record straight with the lack of no ammunition in your gun. Well, no pun intended, but you can't rebuttal when you
Yeah.
don't know. So
And
they
it,
just
and it is. And when you look at, and again, I'm just telling the truth according to proof, in the beauty industry and the barber industry,
yep.
the epitome of a hairstylist is one who has been to the esteemed Vidal Sassoon. If you have not attended, if you don't aspire to go to that Vidal Sassoon, that Tony and Guy, that Pivot Point, the Schwarzkopf, the Framisis, of the world, then the Revlons, the L'Oreal, you do understand that you are not amongst the elite. For
So,
me,
so how did they find out how to do black? So why do they feel that they know more about black hair when they never learned it?
well, here was for me. Now, I had the opportunity to get into that world, but because I had some college, under my brain, I had some John Henry Clark. I had some Dr. Ben. I had some Amos Wilson. I could not legitimately sit in that space and really take that. And I'm not saying I'm the only licensed cosmetologist with college, but when you are under the tutelage, under that type of information, it's hard to sit in the space of white, cosmetologists and educators who are at the helm. This is the height of the beauty industry. You have to, if you don't have Vidal Sassoon, if you don't have Tony and Guy, if you don't have Pivot Point under your wings or up on your wall, then you're not it. And I do recall, Amos Wilson, Kawanza Gajuf, so many, Eric Michael Dyson, all of them saying that we have to be careful with allowing white people to define us all the time. So this is their definition of the epitome of it. Even when you look at your celebrity hairstylists, they ain't celebrity until they touch too. Angelina Jolie, Jennifer Lopez, and then you'll get your token, African American that they can say that they touched. And then a lot of African American women were just bold enough to come out and say it was all weave, and that they didn't want to do it anymore. So that proves that, and I'm not knocking celebrity stylists because after all, I love me some Ted Gibson, I love me some Greg Gilmore, and those guys know both ends of the spectrum. But they too would have to admit that the elite, the hairstylist who makes the most money,
But my whole point, my whole point again,
anyway.
I know, but my whole point again is that to gain status doing straight hair, you can't do nothing with it. You just wash it, blow dry it, and curl it. What are we? What What are we doing?
Somebody in the chat now, y'all don't be scared. What's up? What's up with the straight hair, styling? She said, what are we doing? I know we got some white people in the chat. I know y'all trolling and y'all scrolling and y'all watching. So help us understand the whole epitome of hairstyling being Vidal Sassoon, Tonya. And that's what I was told, when I said, well, no, I'm going to pass on Vidal Sassoon. Everybody was so disappointed. Oh, but Ladosha, you be so, nah, I'm gonna have to pass on that. I said no sellout. Okay. Here's the last one before we wrap this up. And this one again, guys, we are talking about the dumbest shit that people say about coloring natural or Afro hair. You guys are getting a handful from my homegirl, the unapologetically brilliant hair scientist Cheryl Morrow. So here we go with the last one. This one is over the counter hair color bad. I put up a clip of a lady, actually a licensed cosmetologist, and I hear this a lot. That if you color your hair at home, you're tacky, you're not professional, it's not as good. Now I'm just gonna say I disagree. But over-the-counter hair color has been said by several licensed professionals that over-the-counter hair color is the worst kind of hair color that you can put in your hair. What do you have to say to that as we wrap this topic up?
Well, now I'm gonna ask you a question. Do you know what's in the color that is bad?
I have no idea.
Because I already know where they're going with that. Now,
okay. Yeah, I don't know what they say. I mean, I'm kind of like my daddy in some aspects. I don't think that they're really breaking too much down by way of it in the processing plant. You know how my father would say,
it's money.
That's the same bread that they making. Y'all think that the honey pride is better than the Sara Lee. It's all the same damn. So to a degree, I'm kind of with my daddy on this one. I've never seen them make color, but I do have a hard time believing that they're really processing that much of a difference between
They're not. And let me just say this. I keep saying your hair does not have an independent brain. It does not know if you went to the store to get it, or you went to Sally's to get it, or you went to Ulta to get it, or you went to Sephora to get it. It doesn't know. Hair is not thinking. It doesn't.
My hair is conscious. My hair is conscious. It is ether.
It don't know that you went to Target.
Are you sure?
Color. It don't know it's Clairol. It don't know it's herbal. It don't know if it's Unilever. It don't know nothing.
Even if your last name is Kardashian.
It don't know nothing. It's
even
a fiber.
Master colorist.
It's a fiber. It will soak up. It don't have no respect of brand. Now, if that were the case, they are trying to say, people, please come back to the salon and pay us. That's what they're saying. Now, on the other hand, I don't know why we put $15 more on one tube versus $5 on another. Also, I don't know why we have color just for men versus the women's section. All of that the hair cannot decipher what you guys are doing with your money. They don't have nothing to do with nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm just basically, and let me just go here. I'm not saying don't get your Schwarzkopf. I'm not saying don't do that if you have a personal preference. I'm letting you know your hair did not make that decision. You're making that decision with your commerce, with your money, with your preference, with your associations, like doing mascara. You want Fenty versus Pat McGrath. My point is that the hair don't know, oh my God, you can't put this on. It's not going to work because you're a woman and you bought something just for men. So it's going to jump off until you get female color. It doesn't, the hair is a fiber. It doesn't know all of these decisions that you guys are choosing to make by association with your choices in the commerce world. But what I will say is that now, what's the difference between super, relaxer, or mild, or regular or mild? Does the hair know that? Oh my God, this is a mild. Oh, this is a super, or this is a regular. It doesn't work like that. You are bringing your consciousness to the marketplace. You're making these decisions for yourself. You're making these now. Why can't we do same day color?
Yeah, because the hair can only take one chemical, at a time.
But how does the hair make that decision? So what are you saying?
I would say that when it comes to the well, you're right, because there is a line of it's the way stuff is formulated, because there is a line of color that we use here. This is by Scruples by Blazing, that you can relax and highlight in one day. And so they debunked the theory that the hair can only take one chemical at a time. And I'm going to honestly say that this put me on the map. As a colorist and as a licensed cosmetologist. This color line here is called Scruples by Blazing. It's only available to licensed professionals. And before you jump a little bit more into that, I just want to say that when people do ask me as a licensed professional, like, well, what's the difference? Or what I would say, the education that we get about how to use the color, how to formulate, how to create, how to do placements, how to care for it to keep the hair from doing certain things, how to, refine, hues you do and don't want to see. That is what brings into the cost of the hair coloring. But professionally, I would never, ever, and I do have customers who color, highlight, everything their own hair at home, and it looks absolutely amazing. And I promote it, I encourage it. In my book, What They Don't Tell You at the Hair Salon, there it is over here. I do that. I keep it 100, just like you do, because there's too many lies out here. So the salon hair coloring experience is a professional one, in as much that we can do all those things compared to someone who's doing it at home. You probably wouldn't be able to understand how come when I use this on my hair, it does not color my gray, even though it says, it's for gray hair. And so you need to have a little bit more education, as Cheryl pointed out, how this works. So we're asking again, everybody, to just kind of lower your expectations, because you need education. You can't watch this YouTube and take notes and then go back and color your hair. It don't work like that. That's the difference to me.
Right. And also, the only reason why the same day double process, or, oh girl, your hair is double processed, we said that, or over processed, we'll say that. The only reason why that came into play is because the discomfort. So if you cook your scalp and you got a relaxer, they're saying, well, let's not put another service on it. Wait till next week and come back, and then we're going to do it again. Now, the point is, what happened in a week to the hair and scalp? Did the scalp know? Okay, thanks, sweetheart.
You know what they teach them? They teach them, and I know some hairstylists in the chat. Cheryl, Ladosha, y'all lying, because the cuticle, it takes 2 weeks for the cuticle to close back down, and then you can go back in. And I'm like you.
Well, my whole point is, so did the cuticle get stronger during the 2 weeks? Because we already know hair strands is protein. It doesn't heal from the outside in, or the outside in, or inside out. It doesn't do that. Once it's damaged, you got to cut it off. So it doesn't. So it's not regenerating like that.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we doing? It's the scalp that we made a decision after. It's not the hair, because we didn't check the hair. We didn't give it a mineral test. We didn't go through it. Oh, is it better? We don't know. As professionals, there are no mechanisms and apparatuses that you guys, that cosmetologists, have been given to measure from 1 week to the next week. It's the hair and the cuticles closed. You don't know that. I don't know where now that is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. 2 weeks, 14 days.
Yeah.
It takes 14 days. Now, let me just say this. Let me ask you a question. That same person or them same people that said that is the same as the one that says 4 weeks until you get another touch-up. Oh, right? Color, 4 weeks, right?
Come on.
Now, if you tell a black man that gets a haircut, or a white man, or a Mexican man, it don't make no difference. If you tell him he's going to get a haircut and his hair ain't going to grow back until 4 weeks later, he ain't going to have no 5 o'clock shadow. He going to the doctor. You mean my bald head going to be bald for 4 weeks? So my whole point is that with these calculations are guesstimations. They're not real. And all I'm saying is, why can one person say, well, I can go 8 weeks? Okay. Well, I can go 2 months without getting my hair done. Some people can't go but 3 weeks. I mean, but my point is that, we get into, and we just, our personality, we have a personality that's in the salon, and then we have genetics, and they're not on the same page.
Never. They never are. And this is why the science is here for us, and we would respect it, and if we would go to school and stay off these Google things and stop looking stuff up and stop trying to escape, as Asar Imhotep would say. You can't microwave this stuff, guys. You can't. You need to be educated. And I know a lot of people are like, well, where did educator get it from? And what makes the person with an education educate? Because you have an instructor, okay? You need someone. You need.
I had a dermatologist as a client, right? And she came to see me. She needed a rush job, and she said, I got my hair grows, my hair ain't growing as fast as I wanted to, and blah 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 blah. And so I says, well, come on in, let's check it out. And so she came in. She says, but girl, I need a touch up. And I says, listen. Now we're gonna have to get on the same page with the dumb shit. Now, is your hair growing, or you got new growth? Which one? It's not growing. Which one is it doing? She said, well, I got new growth. Well, then it's growing. But then, well, we just have these really weird things that we're not getting on the same page. And let me just say this, and it all stems from Black people saying things that are not really true. But then we get them from folklore because our grandmother said them, and then our auntie said them, and then the hairdresser said them, and then, then it becomes dumb.
Yeah, we hope you guys have enjoyed. This is our fifth episode. We're doing pretty good. Thank you guys. Y'all rock this out a lot. We appreciate you guys for holding down with us. LinkedIn, we finally got you in the house. So all my LinkedIn people, thank you so much. We will be back next Monday, and we have another wonderful topic. And I forgot what the topic. I left my little piece of paper, but I'll put it up. But every week we have a wonderful, wonderful discussion about some of the dumbest shit that people say about Black hair. We talked about what our goal is, and we hope that you guys will join us every Monday at 6:00. Don't forget that Cheryl and our books are available on Amazon, as well as my hair care products, all that other good stuff. stuff. Cheryl does not do hair, but I do. But I do book out pretty fast. So if you want your hair did, you want your hair colored, I am a Formisi certified master colorist. Whoop whoop! I have been put through the rigors. I'm not ashamed to say I'm very proud of my education. Also, we do have this wonderful documentary coming out in the fall, and it is called The Narrative. And it's again, we're talking about letting the truth be told about this evolution of Afro hair care here in America and across across the world, as I keep saying. And don't forget, we have giveaways and stuff that we're giving away. Jumanda is going to get her T-shirt. And this is it's the summertime, so everybody needs a t-shirt in the summer to wash the car, to go jogging, to lounge around in the backyard or whatever. You can cut up, do whatever you want to do. So thank you guys so much. Don't forget to share the content. Please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to our channel, because all of the good stuff is going down right here with Cheryl and I as we talk about some of the dumbest shit that people say about black hair. We can't take it no more. So if y'all seen it, y'all better stop it, because we're going to break it down. All right. Bye.